Hey everyone, do you ever feel like you're drowning in decisions? Like life's throwing curveballs faster than you can swing? Are you facing lawsuits, feeling the weight of work, the responsibilities at home, and that nagging anxiety of chasing your dreams? It's like a tangled rope, right? Well, if you're nodding along, you're in the right place, because today we're diving into a book that could be a total game changer, The Purposeful Decision Maker by Pádraig Ó Céidigh. In this video, we unpack the lessons in this book to overcoming challenges you face in daily life. Inside, we're unlocking some key strategies, including defining your safe harbor, finding that solid foundation in your life, balancing instinct and analysis, when to trust your gut and when to crunch the numbers, uncovering hidden biases, spotting those sneaky assumptions that can trip us up. So grab your headphones, get comfy, and let's get ready to become more purposeful decision makers. Vineet's mind was troubled. He was facing lawsuits everywhere in his life, pressure from work, responsibilities at home, and the anxiety of achieving his dreams. Everything was like a tangled rope. He often wondered how he would manage it all, but he couldn't find an answer anywhere. One day, his childhood friend Palak recommended a book to him, The Purposeful Decision Maker, a guide to making great decisions in life and business by Pádraig Ó Céidigh. Palak said, "Read this book and see, maybe you'll find clarity. You'll also understand why you remain so confused when making decisions." Vineet hesitantly picked up the book. He thought, what's the harm in trying? That night, when everyone at home was asleep, he sat on the balcony and started reading the book. The title of the first chapter was Define Your Safe Harbor First. Vineet found this somewhat confusing. He thought, safe harbor? What does that mean? Am I supposed to become a ship? But as he read on, things became clearer. The chapter stated that before making any decision, you must define your life's safe harbor. This means those things that are the foundation of your life, which are most important to protect. Focus on 4 key points: people and relationships, those who give you energy and security; place, a physical or mental space where you can contemplate; principles, your moral values that should never be compromised; purpose, your long-term vision, the impact you want to create. Vineet paused. He closed the book and thought, what is my safe harbor in life? He first thought about people. He had many relationships in his life, but how many gave him energy? He realized that his parents had always been his support system. Their words and their trust gave him strength. But when it came to friends, his mind became confused. Many times, his friends would demotivate him indirectly. Palak had inspired him, but what about the others? He said to himself, maybe I need to pay more attention to relationships. I will spend less time with those who don't give me energy. Then he paid attention to place. Vineet realized that his special spot was the balcony. Whenever he was upset, sitting on the balcony and looking at the open sky calmed him down. But he also noted that he lacked a mental space. He never took the time to think properly, he was always in a rush. He thought, I need to take some time for myself, maybe 10 to 15 minutes a day, just to think and relax. Now it was time for principles. Vineet was quiet for a while. He had never really thought about his moral values. He always made decisions based on the situation, but what were his core principles? He asked himself, can I ever cheat someone? No. Do I always value honesty? Yes. He realized that his honesty and fairness were his greatest strengths. He should never compromise them. Finally, he thought about purpose. This was the trickiest part. What was his long-term vision? He was just working to earn money and pay bills. He asked himself, why am I doing all this? What do I want to achieve in my life? The answer didn't come immediately, but he decided that he needed to think deeply about it. The book went on to say that when your safe harbor is defined, it becomes easier to make decisions. You have a clear lens through which you can view every decision. Does this decision protect my safe harbor or not? Vineet realized for the first time that the biggest problem in his life was that he had no foundation. He was just running around like a ship without a compass. He finished the first chapter of the book and promised himself that in the next few days, he would properly define his safe harbor. He took out a notebook and made 4 headings: people, place, principles, purpose. The next morning when he left for the office, his mind was somewhat clearer. He decided that during his lunch break, he would go to a nearby park where he could find peace. He kept his notebook with him and wrote, people, mom, dad, and Palak; place, balcony and park; principles, honesty, fairness, and respect for others; purpose. He put a question mark on this and wrote, to be continued. That day, for the first time, he felt that he could take control of his life. He just had to practice making decisions in the right way. In the evening when he returned home, he called Palak. He excitedly told her that he had finished the first chapter and had started defining his life's safe harbor. Palak laughed and said, "Just keep going like this. This book will teach you a lot." Vineet was now curious about what would be in the next chapter, but he promised himself that he would not move forward until he had fully defined his safe harbor. He put his notebook on the bedside table and thought, if you like our free summary, you can subscribe to our channel, buy our membership, or support us through UPI. Now let's get back to the summary. Maybe life isn't as complicated as I make it out to be. I just need the right priorities and the right mindset. That night, for the first time, he slept stress-free. In his dream, he saw himself as a calm, confident person who made every decision with clarity and confidence. Over the next few days, Vineet worked on strengthening his life's safe harbor. He wrote the 4 pillars in detail in his notebook and made some improvements every day. Now he was starting to feel some confidence in making decisions, but the real test was yet to come. One day, a major issue occurred in the office. There was a conflict between 2 departments of the company, and the management asked Vineet to handle this problem. Vineet was somewhat nervous because it was the first time he had to make such a big decision. During the lunch break, he thought that maybe he should go back to his book to understand this situation. He went to the second chapter of the Purposeful Decision Maker. The chapter title was Balance, Instinct, and Analysis. Vineet thought, this sounds interesting, maybe this is what I need right now. He started reading. The book stated that 2 things are very important in decision-making: instinct and analysis. Instinct should be used when decisions are related to relationships or ethics. Analysis is necessary when dealing with complex issues such as financial or operational matters. The key is to understand which approach is correct in which situation. Vineet thought, this fits my current situation perfectly, but how do I decide whether to rely on instinct or analysis? The book gave an example. Imagine you are hiring someone for a team. If you feel that the candidate's personality is not right for your team, trust your instinct. But if you have to make a financial decision for the company's profits, rely only on data. Vineet took a deep breath and said to himself, okay, first I understand the problem. He took out his notebook and divided the problem into 2 parts. Part 1 was the issue of trust and relationships between team members. Part 2 was the operational issue of deadlines and productivity. He first focused on instinct. He asked himself, do I think both teams are genuinely trying to understand each other? His gut feeling was saying no, both were just trying to get their point across. He decided that he would first have an honest and open conversation. Then he used analysis. He looked at the productivity reports and deadline data for both teams. He realized that due to the communication gap between the 2 teams in the past few weeks, the company had suffered losses. Keeping this data in mind, he made a plan. In the evening, he held a meeting with both teams. First, using instinct, he started the conversation in an empathetic tone. Look, I know we are all under a lot of pressure, but if we don't work as a team, the problem won't be solved. After that, he adopted a data-driven approach. He showed both teams the productivity figures and said, these numbers clearly show that we are lagging behind due to the lack of communication. If we work on collaboration, the results will automatically improve. After the meeting, Vineet felt that he had balanced instinct and analysis in the right way. Both teams took his point positively and decided to work together. While returning home that night, Vineet had another realization. Just as I balanced instinct and analysis in the office, I can also maintain this balance in my personal life. He thought about his relationships. He often ignored the gut feeling that some friends were manipulating him, but he couldn't say anything without data-driven proof. He decided that from now on he would trust his gut instincts more. On the other hand, he thought about financial decisions. He often invested money without proper analysis. He remembered that last year he had made an impulsive decision and suffered a big loss. He said to himself, from now on, I will always adopt a data-driven approach in financial matters. The next day, he reread that chapter of his book. This time, he underlined the key points. Instinct for relationships. If something feels right or wrong from the heart, don't ignore it. Analysis for financial and operational decisions. Whenever money or projects are involved, pay attention to data and facts. Vineet decided that he would implement this learning in his daily life decisions. He decided to conduct an experiment. That weekend, he went out to dinner with his family. There, he noticed that his younger sister, Neha, seemed upset. He trusted his instinct and softly asked, Neha, is everything okay? At first, Neha tried to avoid it, but then she said that she was not happy with her job. Vineet calmly said, okay, let's look at it logically. What do you want and what options do you have? They analyzed Neha's career options and encouraged her to follow her passion. Neha said, brother, you have helped me a lot today. Vineet was happy that he had used the right balance of instinct and analysis. Gradually, Vineet started enjoying making decisions. Every time he faced a problem, he would pause and think, should I use instinct here or analysis? But he also learned that balancing both approaches is an art. The same method does not work in every decision. His book was no longer just a guide for him but a practice manual. He finished the chapter and decided to read the next chapter, but he promised himself that he would fully implement the balance of instinct and analysis in his life before moving on. That night, before going to bed, he sat on his balcony and looked at the stars in the sky. He said to himself, maybe I am slowly becoming a purposeful decision maker. For a few days, Vineet worked on creating the right balance of instinct and analysis. He understood that gut feelings and logic have different roles in every decision, but he felt that sometimes some invisible barriers also come in his decisions. He began to question himself, is it possible that I am making wrong decisions because of some biases and I don't even know it? That evening he opened the next chapter of his book, The Purposeful Decision Maker. The name of the chapter was Uncover Hidden Biases. Vineet got complete clarity that the answer to his confusion might be in this chapter. The book stated that biases often subtly influence decisions and a person does not even realize it. These biases come because of emotional triggers, which are completely different from reality. The book told about 2 tools. 1, pre-mortem exercises to imagine the failure scenario of any decision before taking it. Taking neutral feedback from others so that there are no blind spots. Vineet took a deep breath and thought, oh, this is completely new to me, how do I practice it? He started reading the chapter slowly and started taking notes. The next day there was a big project meeting in the office. Vineet had to lead the new project and he had to make a plan for the entire execution. He used both his instinct and analysis and prepared a detailed plan, but this time he thought of doing something new. He decided to test the tools he had learned in the book. First he applied the PREM exercise. He gathered his team and said, suppose this project fails, think why this might happen. Initially the team members were somewhat surprised. One said, Vineet sir, why are you thinking like this? We should focus on success, not failure. Vineet calmly explained, we have already made a plan for success, but if we understand the reasons for failure in advance, we can avoid those mistakes. Gradually the team started participating. Someone said that if deadlines are missed then the project may fail. Another said, if client expectations are not clear then there will be a problem. The third added that team communication can become an issue. Vineet noted all the points and music, realized he made some key changes in his project execution plan, such as weekly check-ins to avoid communication gaps, taking clarity of all deliverables from the client in advance, keeping realistic buffer time for deadlines. Then he applied the second tool, third-party perspective audit. He took feedback from Raghav, a senior colleague in his company. Raghav looked carefully at Vineet's plan and said that the plan is good but you have not considered one thing, the budget allocation is very tight. If there is any need for unforeseen expenses then there may be issues. Vineet took this feedback seriously and suggested keeping it flexible in the budget. After the meeting, Vineet wrote in his notebook, biases are net, so we don't even realize that we are making assumptions. If I had not used pre-mortem and third-party perspective, I would have made some big mistakes. He realized that biases are not limited to professional life, we often make assumptions in personal life as well. He decided that he would test it in his personal life as well. That weekend he went to meet his old friends. During the party he noticed that one of his friends, Karen, seemed aloof and disconnected. Vineet thought, is Karen angry with me? Maybe I said something that offended him. He said to himself, let's think like pre-mortem. If Karen and my friendship are weakening then what could be the reasons for that? He analyzed previous interactions. He remembered that last month he could not attend an important event of Karen's. Then he used the second tool. He asked his mutual friend Saurabh, you think Karen is angry with me? Saurabh said, no, you're nothing like that, he is just stressed because of his office workload. Vineet realized that he was unnecessarily taking Karen's behavior on himself. He decided that instead of relying on assumptions, he would talk to Karen directly. The next day he called Karen and said that you seemed upset, is everything okay? Karen openly shared his problem and Vineet supported him. Vineet said to himself, look, if I didn't work on my biases then maybe I would lose this friendship. Gradually Vineet got into the habit of recognizing biases and tackling them. Every time he had to make a decision he would pause and ask himself, am I relying on any assumptions? Are my emotions influencing me? Am I considering the failure scenario? This process made his decision-making even more refined. A few weeks later, another big challenge came in the office. The company had to invest in a new partnership. This decision was quite